Jordan Lindsey, a tropical vacation. Crystal clear, turquoise water. A family snorkeling together in a place that looks like a postcard. It's the image of paradise. But what happens when that paradise becomes a hunting ground? This is the story of Jordan Lindsey and the day her family's dream vacation turned into a real-time nightmare. In June 2019, 21-year-old Jordan Lindsey was in the Bahamas with her family. On a whim, she and her mother joined a last-minute snorkeling tour to Rose Island, a popular spot known for its calm, shallow waters. They were in the water, enjoying the scenery, when they drifted a short distance from the main group. There was no guide in the water with them. Suddenly, sharks appeared. Not one, but at least 3. According to her family, there was no warning shouted from the boat. The first anyone knew of the danger was when the sharks were already there. Jordan was hit first. As her mother Cammie swam to her, Jordan screamed, "Mom, there's another shark coming!" before a second shark slammed into her leg. It was a coordinated, multi-animal attack. What followed was an act of pure maternal desperation. With no help from the tour staff, Cammie physically dragged her bleeding daughter back towards the shore, fighting off the sharks as they continued to attack. Jordan's right arm was completely severed. Her other arms, legs, and buttocks were torn apart. She was pulled from the water alive, but the blood loss was catastrophic. She was pronounced dead at a nearby hospital. The family later criticized the tour company, Sandy Toes, for having no guides in the water and for their slow reaction. The case is a horrifying reminder that the ocean is not a swimming pool. It is a wilderness. And sometimes we are reminded of that in the most brutal way imaginable. Gloria Serge. There are some 911 calls you can never unhear. The panic, the disbelief, the raw terror of someone watching a tragedy unfold in real time. This is one of those stories. It didn't happen in the wild jungles of the Amazon or the plains of the Serengeti. Nope. It happened in a manicured, peaceful retirement community in Florida during a routine afternoon dog walk. On February 20th, 2023, 85-year-old Gloria Serge was walking her small dog along the edge of a retention pond in the Spanish Lakes Fairways community in Fort Pierce. It was something she did every day. But on this day, a nearly 11-foot alligator was waiting. It lunged from the water, initially going for the dog. Gloria, in a protective instinct, tried to pull her pet to safety. A neighbor, looking out her bedroom window, saw the struggle and called 911. The audio from that call is chilling.
"An alligator has a woman!"
She screams at the dispatcher.
"It's too late! It's too late! Oh my God!"
The neighbor watched, helpless, as the massive reptile dragged the elderly woman into the lake. Gloria briefly surfaced, trying to swim away, but the alligator was too powerful. The neighbor tried to extend a pole to her, but it was no use.
"It's too late!"
The neighbor says on the call, her voice filled with horror. Gloria Serge was pulled under and drowned. Her body was recovered later that day. The alligator was captured and euthanized by wildlife officials, and parts of Gloria's body were reportedly found inside it. The entire incident was captured on surveillance video. This case is so disturbing because of its setting. A quiet, serene pond behind a retirement home, a place that feels safe, suddenly becomes the scene of a prehistoric ambush. Michael Packard. On June 11, 2021, Michael Packard, a 56-year-old veteran lobster diver, was on a routine dive in Cape Cod Bay. He was about 33 feet down when he felt a huge bump, and everything went completely dark. He thought he'd been attacked by a great white shark, a common fear for divers in the area. But he felt no teeth, just immense pressure all around him. He realized, to his horror, that he was inside the mouth of a humpback whale. Like, bro, you went to work to catch lobsters, and a whale caught you. That's not even on the job description. Okay, so for about 30 to 40 seconds, Packard was trapped. He could feel the whale's powerful muscles contracting. He was convinced he was going to die, suffocated or crushed inside the animal. He thought of his wife and his 2 young sons. He was breathing from his scuba gear, but he didn't know for how long. He struggled, and the whale seemed to get more agitated. Then, just as suddenly as it began, it was over. The whale surfaced, violently shook its head back and forth, and spat him out. His crewmate, who had been watching the water in confusion, saw him burst out of the ocean next to the whale and hauled him back onto the boat. Incredibly, Packard escaped with just bruises and soft tissue damage, no broken bones. Marine biologists explained that it was a freak accident. The whale was lunge feeding on a school of fish and simply engulfed Packard by mistake. A humpback's throat is too small to actually swallow a human. But for 30 seconds, Michael Packard lived out the biblical myth of Jonah in the most terrifying way possible. Akbar Salubiro. In March 2017, Akbar Salubiro, a 25-year-old palm oil harvester, went out to work on a plantation on the island of Sulawesi, Indonesia. When he didn't return home that evening, his family and friends grew worried. They organized a search party and began combing the area. They found something unsettling: a massive 23-foot-long reticulated python, so bloated it could barely move. In the back of the snake, they could see the distinct outline of a pair of boots. Their worst fears were realized. They killed the snake and, with a long hunting knife, began to slice open its belly. The scene, which was captured on video and quickly went viral, is the stuff of nightmares. As they cut through the snake's skin, the shape of a human body becomes clear. They pull, and out slides the fully intact body of Akbar Salubiro, still wearing his shorts and boots. He had been swallowed whole. Experts believe the python likely ambushed him, crushing him to death through constriction before beginning the slow, horrifying process of swallowing him head first. The snake's jaws would have dislocated to accommodate his body, which was then folded inside the snake's stomach. The video is one of the most disturbing things you can find online, not just because it's graphic, but because it's so surreal. It's a childhood boogeyman story made real, a documented case of a human being becoming prey in the most primal way imaginable. Lon Lee Alle. In May 2017, 50-year-old Singaporean backpacker Lon Lee Alle was visiting Komodo Island in Indonesia. To save money, he decided to skip the official guided tours and stay with local villagers. On the day of the attack, he followed some locals into an area where Komodo dragons were feeding on goats and pigs. He wanted to get some close-up photos. The villagers warned him repeatedly, "Do not get close, especially not when they are feeding." Komodo dragons are apex predators with a venomous bite. They are not theme park attractions. Alle ignored the warnings. He moved closer to the group of feeding dragons. One of the massive lizards suddenly lunged and clamped down on his left leg. It tore into his flesh as he tried to pull away. The villagers rushed in, beating the dragon back, and managed to free him. He was evacuated by a military speedboat to a hospital, suffering from severe, deep wounds. He survived, but the story went global as a cautionary tale. The head of the national park publicly criticized him, saying he had risked his life for the sake of your budget. The irony is thick. In an attempt to save a few dollars on a guide, he ended up with a massive hospital bill and a permanent reminder of what happens when you treat a 150-pound venomous lizard like an Instagram prop. It's a case of cheap tourism meeting brutal, prehistoric reality. The Texas Rattlesnake Man. In June of 2018, a man and his wife were doing yard work at their home near Corpus Christi, Texas, when they spotted a 4-foot rattlesnake. Acting to protect his wife, the man grabbed a shovel and with a single strike decapitated the snake. The head was severed completely from the body. The threat, it seemed, was over. He bent down to dispose of the remains. As he reached for the severed head, the unthinkable happened. The head, completely detached from its body, suddenly struck. It lunged forward and bit him on the hand, injecting a massive dose of venom. Within minutes, he began to suffer seizures. He lost his vision. His condition deteriorated so rapidly that he had to be airlifted to a hospital. Doctors were unsure if he would survive. The bite from the severed head was actually more severe than a normal bite. A living snake can control how much venom it injects, but in a post-mortem reflex, the head released its full, deadly payload. He was given huge quantities of antivenom, and after 24 hours in critical condition, he pulled through. Herpetologists later explained that a snake's bite reflex can persist for hours after death. Its nervous system doesn't require a brain to fire off one last, desperate attack. The story is a bizarre, almost comical, but ultimately horrifying example of nature's last laugh. It's a case where the monster was well and truly dead, but its head still had one last bite,